Hello, future hobbyist. Welcome back to the channel. It is so good to see you today. I hope you've been doing well. If you haven't been, well, stop in for a little bit, hang out, relax, and just spend some time with me today as we talk about the very beginnings of, well, the journey into painting miniatures. There's a lot of stuff that really goes into it, but I think if you can just follow along a little bit and again, be patient with yourself, you'll come to find out there's really not too much to it. Essentially, it's just mini, paint, brush, boom, product is done. Now there's some in-betweens. Maybe you have to prime the figure, maybe you need to look into budgeting out for certain things, but let's take it slow at first. Let's just get down to the bare bones and basics. So, let's say your first step is to look into brushes, but you really don't know what to do. Let's make this even easier on ourselves. 1. Do I want to spend time and money on this hobby? If your answer is yes, then you're in luck. There's actually pre-made kits that come with a brush, usually. Make sure you read the boxes in case they don't. And then a set of paints along with a miniature that comes in that box. That was actually my first experience in this hobby. It was a pre-made kit. It came with about, I want to say 6 or so paints, maybe a few more. One of which was a actual primer, so a paint primer. So I didn't have to buy any spray primer. And it came with the mini, and I was able to do it the same day. If I remember right, it was maybe about $20 to $25, which again, if that's still a little too risky, maybe put a little money aside, or maybe it could be a gift, maybe something that can get from a birthday or for Christmas, or whatever celebration might be, where it could be, something, hey, I really want to dive into this, kind of hint it to your friends or family. Maybe they can offer that up to you. Anyways, that first kit is what really helped me figure out if this was the hobby that I wanted to invest in. And it was. I loved it. I loved taking the time to learn and to make my first miniature. And maybe one day I'll show it off. I'm a little embarrassed by, the first ever mini, but maybe I shouldn't be. We'll see what happens down the road. Anyways, I would say that that's a good first step. It gets you your paints, it gets you a brush, gets you a primer, and you're able to see how you do. And if you don't like it, well, you're not out of anything really. You could maybe give those paints to someone else. You could possibly find another hobbyist who could use them, or just keep them aside. Maybe the spark will come back to you. Either way, it's not a whole investment, unless again, you end up loving it. Now, say for instance, we've gotten our pre-made kit, we've gotten our brush, and we loved the hobby. And you start diving into things like 3D printing or buying primed models. There's a lot more now that comes into it. For instance, this dragon turtle, which you all would have seen in the first video, did not come primed. It was just a flat model, and that's it. So I had to figure out, well, what can I do? What can I use? And ultimately, there's some really good options out there. Army Painter does make a primer, and they sometimes say you should go with them. I'm of a different mindset. I think you can go with any hardware store primer, whether it's, your local Walmart or Lowe's, Home Depot, any kind of retail, outdoors or store that might sell those things is a good place to look. That led me to purchasing this Rust-Oleum. This is a paint primer, ultra cover. You can see it bonds to plastic, shows you exactly what it's good for, and it's just a paint primer. This thing I think was only like $6.99 from my hardware store, and it has lasted me for a long time. Now, some people like black primer. Well, Rust-Oleum makes a black primer too. This is a very, I think, good starting, brand of primer. It's very easy to use. There's definitely, I will not use this whole can for a while. I mean, heck, it covered this thing pretty quickly. I want to say maybe just a couple minutes I was able to get it done, which is awesome. Now comes the tricky part. Well, Chromatica, what do I do when I get a big mini and I'm just now diving in and need more brushes? That can be tricky. Brushes you can find at literally any craft store, and they come in a wide variety of brands, shapes, sizes, your whole imagination. It took me a while, and I'm still learning about proper brush caretaking, what to look for, what is described as a good brush, and so on. I believe every hobbyist should look into using makeup brushes for things like dry brushing or using a very, very soft tipped brush when really diving into buying brushes. I bought this from Target, I want to say for $6, and it is my favorite dry brush ever. So you might be thinking, well, what is a dry brush? That is where you just get a little bit of paint. So you would have your palette, wipe it off, and whatever you were trying to dry brush, usually it's a white or some other color that kind of helps get the shading done, and you would just simply drag it across the areas that you're wanting to highlight. I did some of it actually, you can see on the base. There's a lot of recesses and stuff that didn't get the dry brush, which is good. Those are areas that I want to remain shaded. And that essentially is just all it is. And makeup brushes, I have found out, are really good about being able to get it nice and smooth covering and provide, excellent cleaning on it. I love this. So if you're curious about the brand, there it is. Again, like $6 from Target. Very, very affordable. Now, there are some brands, I know Artist Opus is one, that really is pushing the price point on dry brushes, and I know they're good, and I know it's a great brand, but if you're looking to budget out, definitely look into makeup brushes. This is another one that I've been using. As you can see, still got some paint on there, but I bought this the same day as I bought the larger one. Same brand too. ELF eyeshadow, and then this one was the Putty Primer Applicator. Very good brands, and they've worked wonders for me. Some other varieties of dry brushes. I've got these two right here. These are more flat tipped, and I don't really care for them anymore. They kind of just sit in my paintbrush cup right now, but they work good for larger scale minis, especially in trying to get things like dragon wings or larger scaled terrain. So they do get used sometimes, just not as much. And then the last set of dry brushes that I have are kind of in the middle. This one, in fact, was my first one, and you can see it's really been put through the ringer. But the bristles have held up well, and I will let you know now, I did not spend an arm and a leg at all for any of these brushes. I went to my local store, Michael's, because I personally don't really like shopping at Hobby Lobby, but Michael's offers really good deal on brushes. And these ones I think were only maybe just a few dollars. Again, I'm not looking to, say you need the best of the best. You just simply don't. When it comes to this hobby, go as cheap as you want. It really just comes down to how you're caretaking for them. So we got our dry brushes. Well, let's get down to some base coat brushes. I've got quite a few that I like to use for base coating. And what you're looking for in a base coat brush is definitely more of a thinner tip but rounded. And what these do is they allow you for a smooth application on areas. Definitely, you're looking for something that can hold the paint, but not, smear it like what a dry brush could do. And these ones were, again, all purchased from Michaels. Again, only maybe a couple to a few dollars. I did not, spend an arm and a leg on these at all. And they have lasted me for a long time. Again, we're looking for like that rounded brush style when it comes to a base coat brush. And that's the bare bones basics. Some more advanced ones are things like, highlighting brush or edge brushes, as I think of them, because they're thinner and they allow for a really fine edge to a specific mini. Maybe something that has a sword, an axe, dagger, whatever it may be. Those brushes are really, really good because they cover so much of a fine point. And I only have one of those. And that is right here. And as you can see, it is very thin compared to our normal base coat brushes. These are really good when you get the paint on them. They become very, very fine pointed and fine edged. I love using this to kind of accentuate a sword, especially if it has an elemental effect like a flame effect. This is very good for making sure that that flame effect stands out well. And the last of the brushes I like to call fine point or fine detail brushes is usually what they're labeled as in hobby stores. These are the brushes that are they can kind of get up there in price because they're super fine point, but they're made to last and be used for small details like eyes or claws, teeth. Some figures may have a tongue like the beholder. These brushes are all to kind of compensate for that. Now, this was a Army Painter branded one that I bought. This was my first detail brush. It even says it right here, insane detail. This cost me way too much and I should not have put the money into it, but I needed something to help me with eyeballs. And it was available at my hobby store, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. It still does well, but this guy is even more of a fine point. And I got this from Michaels. It's a mini spotter. This has revolutionized how I'm doing my pupils and other fine details on my minis. As you can see, it's way more thin than what the Army Painter is. And I immediately was sold on this. I got this actually when Michaels was holding their Black Friday sale. It was a buy 3, get 3 free. So I got this one, I think it was only $4. And oh my lord, it has changed the game. So when you're looking at brushes, I think for now, as a beginner, really just focus on a dry brush and a base coat brush. Look for your fine detail brushes on, say a hobby store's website. I wouldn't go name brand. It's just too much money if you're already investing in getting so much more. And that's really all there is to brushes. There's not too much else to go into it, which is good. Again, we're wanting to make this as simple as possible. Go for the basic kits. They will provide you with everything you need. Make sure you also are wanting to do this hobby, as we stated earlier. Nothing feels worse than when you put $20 to $25 into something and then you get home, you do it, and you're like, well, I hated that. I don't want that for you. I want you guys to be excited and to have, fun with this. And as we venture further down the road, we'll talk more about how we prime, what that looks like, and further discussions about, the miniature painting process. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and that it at least provided some insight into what it means to find a brush, find a primer, and to explore more into this wonderful craft. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.